wind whirled around the hooded traveler as they made their way through the deserted landscape, on a quest for knowledge about this wide and changing world. They call this the Silk Road. It stretches from China through parts of India and Persia, all the way to Africa and Europe. Causes of its rise to fame include the trade initiated by the Crusades, when Europeans came back from attempted conquest with goods from Asia and the Middle East, only growing their demand for more. The Silk Roads were most effective when a strong power controlled them, as seen with the Mongol Empire providing safety for merchants over the whole trade route, which is another cause for the trade route's popularity. Effects of this trade were the diffusion of culture and religion, cities like Kashgar and Samarkand thriving because of trade and a developing banking system with paper money in China. The conquest of Genghis Khan was a time of terror, but his rule was not as fearsome as his conquest, as with the consolidated power he brought came a time of peace, called the Pax Mongolica. With the land under control of the Mongols, merchants felt safe to travel across the Silk Road, as it was under one empire and one law. A change caused in Europe by the Mongols is that people no longer used walled cities and knights in armor in order to defend themselves, because they were useless against the cannons the Mongols used. Another change is that states in both Asia and Europe copied the Mongol style of centralized government. However, the Mongols were not able to unify the culture and language of the vast area they controlled, which remained a continuity. Sea-based trade had been a major form of trade for a while, and improving knowledge of the monsoon winds was a cause for more trade along the Indian Ocean trade routes. More technology was developed as a result, such as the compass, astrolabe, lateen sail, and rudders for steering. This made sea travel more efficient. The spread of Islam and Muslim merchants was also a cause for more trade across the Indian Ocean routes. The effect these trade routes had is the formation of diasporic communities and the spread of culture, including African, Indian, and Muslim culture around various trade cities. Coastal cities also prospered from trade, like Calicut in India. The Saharan Desert, vast, arid, and unwelcoming. And yet, the trans-Saharan trade routes move goods, especially salt, gold, and slaves, across this lonely desert, and bring riches to African empires. Causes of trans-Saharan growth include increasing demand for slaves to do labor both around Africa and in India. Another cause is the use of camels to carry people and goods, as they are adapted to the rough terrain, and the development of different saddle types for the camels. An effect of this is the rise of empires such as Ghana and Mali, which profited greatly from the gold trade. Islam also spread further through Africa and merged with the existing cultures. Interaction between cultures as an effect of trade caused great cultural changes and intellectual improvements. The Silk Road brought Buddhism to China, Japan, and Korea, remaining popular with the common folk, but not so much the nobility. Buddhism and Hinduism also spread through Southeast Asia, becoming central to many island kingdoms. Islam spread through both Africa and Asia, heavily influencing culture in both places. Muslims translated Greek texts, saving the knowledge from being lost, and made many scientific, astronomical, and medical advancements. This knowledge quickly spread to other regions and improved the quality of life. Explorers like Marco Polo and Ibn Battuta traveled the world and told tales of the places they had been. And perhaps I'm doing the same thing right now. The networks of exchange from 1200 to 1450 had a huge effect on the environment, as people interacted with it more to get the goods they needed for trade. Crops from different regions were planted in new places, which caused population growth, as more people had food to eat. But with so much planting, deforestation and soil erosion became problems for the environment, and some soil never recovered from this. In the Saharan desert, wells were dug too to create oases for traders traversing the desert. Perhaps the most significant environmental effect was the spread of disease, in particular the bubonic plague, which killed millions, all across Asia, Europe, and Africa. With this, the traveler departs on a small boat with a lateen sail and disappears into the horizon. Clearly, they came not from this time and place, but from a distant land to which they would someday return. Thank you for watching, and next on Mysterious Hologram TV is the dramatic story of Scruffy the Camel as he is separated from his caravan and must make it back before his precious spices expire. What? Spices don't expire? Never mind. Scruffy is going to have a party. Is the compass and astral. You can end the recording. That's all the things